11 corrupt police officers and 5 civilians would ultimately get fucked by the long dick of the law. Holy shit. Okay.
Very poetic.
It should come as a surprise to absolutely nobody that all of the ladies and gentlemen of the law are scrupulous, upstanding individuals entirely committed to the betterment of their communities. Whilst this is, broadly speaking, largely the case, corruption exists in every organisation, and the police are no exception. Where I grew up, one of the local police officers, where Dave grew up, he wrote this script, could be charitably described as conflicted when it came to upholding certain aspects of the law. Long before I became a publican, but definitely after I was old enough to drink, allegedly, I was sitting outside the Fox Public House in Westleigh when I was approached by one of the regulars who asked me if I'd be interested in purchasing some entirely legal but very cheap and leaf tobacco.
Hey, Mac.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
You wanna buy a sundial?
Just before we continue with today's video, I've got something exceptional to share with you. Look, I've always had an interest in unique products, and that's why I'm thrilled to introduce to you Holzkern, a brand as unique as you are. Holzkern, which means wood core in German, by the way, originated as a family venture in Austria, and what sets their products apart is that they're made from natural materials, giving each piece a bit of one-of-kind character. Like all of us, Holzkern's philosophy reminds you about your connection with nature. All of the wood that they use, you can see it in the bracelet here, is FSC certified, so you know that there's no harm coming to the environment. And speaking of good vibes, Holzkern's come a long way since its humble beginnings. From starting with watches, they now offer a stunning range of jewelry, sunglasses, with over 1,000 designs to choose from on their website. In just 7 years, they've made over 1 million customers happy and have more than 10 physical stores in Austria and Germany. So what can Holzkern offer you? Well, planning a getaway? Sunglasses are a must. Date night? Put on a watch. Look, Black Friday's just around the corner and Holzkern is offering a great deal and discounts until the 27th of November. So click the link below or visit Holzkern, HOLZKERN.com/brainblaze. And a huge thanks to Holzkern for sponsoring this video. And now back to it. What's the crime here? Like, can you not buy tomatoes? Like, it's off the back of a lorry or something, isn't it?
It fell off a truck.
What's the law around that? Because if you buy stolen goods, I believe that's a crime. But also, you've got to know, right? And I guess Dave's is going to be like, yeah, he knows. He knows. Yo, ChatGPT. How does it work under UK law about buying stolen goods? Do I have to know that the goods were stolen for it to be a crime, or is there a crime there anyway? Amazing. It's amazing. It's going to tell us.
All right, let's dive into this. Under UK law, handling stolen goods is a criminal offense. The Theft Act 1968 defines this crime, and it includes receiving stolen goods or arranging to do so, whether you know they are stolen or believe they might be. So even if you don't have full knowledge that the goods are stolen but believe they might be, you could still be committing a crime. However, if you genuinely have no reason to believe...
Okay, so basically exactly what I said. Like, you got to really believe that they were. About 30 seconds after we completed our transaction, I received a tap on the shoulder from the aforementioned police officer. Although I believe that this particular gentleman of the law is now deceased, I shall not name him in case I am wrong. I have no wish to be sued into oblivion. He opened our conversation by saying, "Dave, you shouldn't have done that." Believing that I was going to be in serious trouble, I began claiming that I had no idea what he was talking about.
I didn't do nothing.
Cutting me off before I could finish my first lie, he said, "Next time, come to me and I can get it for you at half the price." What the fuck? I later found out that this officer was not only in the business of duty-free tobacco, but also alcohol. High-end aftershave and perfumes, as well as pirated DVDs.
You don't know me.
Is that real? Is that, like, how much money is there in that? Whilst in the scheme of things, it's a pretty small example of questionable police behaviour, there are innumerable examples of how those sworn to uphold the law are doing much worse things. And the problem is, like, I don't understand why a police officer would do that. Because you're definitely going to lose your job, right? And police have really nice pensions. My uncle was a police officer, and I think he retired at like 55 or maybe even 50 or something, because that's when police officers retire. It's crazy. Yo, ChatGPT. When do police officers in the UK retire?
In the UK, the normal retirement age for police officers is typically 60. However, the specific retirement age can depend on a few factors, such as which police pension scheme they're a part of. For example, under the Police Pension Scheme 1987, officers could retire after 30 years of service, sometimes even earlier.
Yeah, that's ringing bells. It's the 30 years of service thing. So if he joined the police in his 20s, then he'd be retiring at in his 50s, which is great. In today's episodes, we'll take a look at some of those officers and some of those things. Elmore Davies. The first story would not have been out of place on the hit TV show Line of Duty. It involves a prolific drug dealer, a bent police officer, and a former TV star from the 90s show Gladiators. So what happens? I remember when I was a kid, my parents wouldn't let me watch Gladiators. They were like, it's too violent. You can't watch it.
The perils of the wall. The clash of the atmospheres. The awesome danger zone.
In 1996, Chief Inspector Davies just happened to be sharing a flat with a guy who played Warrior on ITV's Gladiator show. Warrior, real name Michael Ahern, was described by Davies as thick, gullible, and dim. Did he just use two words to call him stupid in one sentence? It sounds a little bit like Davies is a little bit dim.
He's an asshole.
He's thick, he's gullible. He's thick, he's dim, he's stupid, he's not very bright. Certainly not the kind of person that you might believe would have the wherewithal to organise anything more complicated than a trip down the gym. In contrast, Davies was, to all appearances, an exceptionally loyal and competent police officer whose 30-year career included, according to The Guardian, 2 years in the British colony of Turks and Caicos Islands investigating Colombian cocaine trader Roberto Escobar. Who's Roberto Escobar? What's the famous one? Pablo Escobar. Is Roberto short? No. It's got to be like his brother or something. I should really watch Narcos. I saw a few episodes of the first season and I loved it. It was just really stressful. These days, since I've had a family, I don't like watching shows where they're just killing people's families. I saw that movie was terrible. Sicario, have you seen that? It's oh my god, that movie is just no, I don't like it. So how did such a well-respected gentleman of the law become involved in corruption? Well, it's quite a convoluted story.
It would take days to recount the events I've witnessed. So, settle in.
Our former gladiator, Ahern, was friends with a former doorman-turned-drug dealer called Tony Bray. By all accounts, Bray was the Liverpool representative of a prolific international drug dealer and one of Interpol's most wanted individuals, Curtis Warren. According to Warren, although Warren was now conducting most of his business in Holland, when one of his business associates was charged with attempted murder after trying to shoot a club doorman in Liverpool, he reached out to Bray to see if anything could be done. Allegedly, the doorman in question was paid £50,000, and due to the well-known fact that close proximity to large amounts of money has the potential to cause amnesia, promptly forgot all the details about what had happened. Yeah, £50,000 is a hell of a lot of money. A doorman, that's at least what you make in a year. Inconveniently for the shooter, the incident had also been witnessed by a police officer, PC Gary Titterington, who seemed to have built up an immunity to cash-induced amnesia, so Warren asked Bray for more help. Over a wiretap telephone call, he said, "Can't we do anything to help him? What busies can we get him with? What busies can we get to?" What does that mean? Bray responded with, "I know someone who knows someone called Elmore Davies." After poking fun at the name Elmore for a bit, Warren agreed that he might indeed be helpful and authorized a bribe of £2,000. Bray then contacted Ahern, I told you it was convoluted, and asked him to see if Davies would help out by providing any information on Titterington that they might be able to use to help blackmail him. Having already been tipped off by the wiretap, I don't understand why you'd do this for £2,000. I know people are short-sighted and stuff, but you've got a hell of a pension on the line. You've got a hell of a career on the line. that you're risking for $2,000. The Merseyside Anti-Corruption Unit placed a bug in Davies' flat, which recorded, among other things, Davies providing information about the witness, including that he was having a secret affair with a drug user. He also provided the witness's car registration information. Most fortunately for Titterington, before the gang could take this plan any further, whether Warren would wind up arrested in the Netherlands, where he would end up spending 11 years in prison. Wait, wasn't this like Interpol's most wanted man? He only got 11 years in prison? Isn't that the list with like Osama bin Laden and shit?
Well, no, wait a minute. I'm Kermit the Frog. Guys, this is a mistake.
As for Davies and the Gladiator, the former would receive a 5-year prison sentence and the latter a 6-month sentence, both for corruption and perverting the course of justice. Police Sergeant Jennifer Kent. I'm not entirely sure that this next entry counts as police corruption. Having said that, it was described as such by several people, including members of the police, so I shall tell you about it and let you, dear audience, be the judge. In 2023, Police Sergeant Jennifer Kent resigned from the Cheshire Police Constabulary after 17 years of service. The reason for this? She had been placed under investigation for allegedly registering as a paid escort offering sexual services on the website adultwork.com.
I've been around the station a few times.
Oh, okay, yeah, because prostitution's sex work is illegal in the UK. Okay, so you are doing a crime. I'll be like, wait, what she does in her own time is her own business, but that is not allowed. For those of you pretending not to know anything about this website, wait, I've never heard of this website, genuinely.
Yeah, sure.
Why would I, like... What? Perhaps many were watching this video with their partners. I'll give you a moment to pretend to Google it, say something well along the lines of, well, I never, and come back to the video. Wait, I'm obviously aware that escort websites exist, because of course they do, but to know this specific website?
Oh, I think thou dost protest too much.
For understandable reasons, selling sexual services, which incidentally is a crime in the UK, is taken much more seriously if you're a police officer. Although, yeah, because then you can be blackmailed. It's really important. Although, as I previously mentioned, Kent resigned before the investigation concluded, they finished it anyway, and according to some constable, I guess that's short for... Chief Constable, I guess. There's like a police abbreviation. Roberts, on the balance of probabilities, Ms. Kent's conduct did amount to gross misconduct, although she took her... It's not corruption, though. It's not corruption. Although he took her claims that she was suffering from mental health conditions and financial issues due to the breakup of her marriage into account, he concluded that, had she not already resigned, she would have been removed from her post without warning. Presumably to ensure that the investigation was not a complete waste of time, Kent was added to the College of Policing barred list, which prevents her from working with the police in any capacity in the future. So, that's what happens. For the record, although I think it's probably better if our police officers don't work as sex workers, although the uniform might come in handy, headlining this story as one of the biggest police corruption stories of 2023 as one notorious sensationalist newspaper did, seems to be taking things a bit too far. Yes, fully agreed. A police officer committed a crime. It's not corruption, it's just crime. Operation Countryman. This entry is slightly different, as rather than referring to one individual, it refers to an impressively large group. Between 1978 and 1982, Operation Countryman, initially set up to investigate the City of London police, but quickly spreading to cover the entire metropolitan force, discovered corruption on a huge scale. Oh, I just realised this is very UK specific.
You got there in the end.
I'm just here as a British man being like, yes, Metropolitan Police, Sergeant so-and-so. And it's like, we're not talking about America at all. Maybe we'll do one in America later. I bet there's America. America's so much bigger. There's going to be more. And so much more money driven. I feel like not saying that American police is more corrupt or anything, but I don't know, Americans like money more. They discovered corruption on a huge scale, so huge in fact that the investigation had to be carried out by officers from Hampshire and Dorset to ensure that it would not be affected by the long reach of the Met. The investigation discovered that officers were routinely taking bribes in exchange for prior warnings of raids, fabrication or alteration of evidence, and the dropping of charges.
You didn't see nothing.
I don't know why people are always bad-mouthing the mafia.
Oh my god, really? Good lord. This seems like in the UK? There's so much to risk by doing this. Sadly, this was not just a problem among low-ranking officers. According to Arthur Hamilton of Dorset Police, who led the investigation, many senior-ranking officers were also involved. He told reporters that, I'm not speaking about the very senior officers of Scotland Yard, I'm talking about the senior operational officers. This very, very serious problem has been, and probably still is, in the Metropolitan Police. According to, I think Metropolitan Police is London Police, right?
Oh, for the love of...
Short answer yes with an if, long answer no with a but.
According to one news article, he also admitted that officials, including the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, Sir Thomas Hetherington, who died in 2007, had attempted to disrupt the investigation on a number of occasions. Whoa. Nice high-level right there, allegedly. Although 8 officers were prosecuted after the investigation, mysteriously, none of them were ever convicted. Is your corruption getting you out of corruption? That's fucked up. Although in some ways this was $4 million worth of investigation wasted, it did raise public awareness of the problem.
But the fact is, you've been making us all look bad.
And during a documentary that aired in 1982, former Met Police Deputy Assistant Commissioner John Alderson confirms the level of institutional corruption within the Metropolitan Police. Quote, by institutionalized, I mean formally. It was in the pockets here and there, but I think there are now certain sections of the CID, certain cohorts, if you like, where it's accepted. It's just become, for some of them, a way of life. This becoming public doesn't raise awareness among the police about police corruption in a positive way. It just makes me think, cool. If you ever get in trouble for crimes, at least you know you can buy your way out of them. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I'd hate to close you down. Maybe we can reach a little, understanding here.
Tragically, according to a report released in 2021 following the rape and murder of Sarah Everard by a serving Metropolitan Police officer, the force still has a long, long way to go before it can be recognized as the epitome of policing excellence that members of the public have a right to expect. Operation Backbone. Now, at this point, you may have noticed that I focused entirely on corrupt police officers in the UK. I just noticed that, Dave. Are we going to America right now? However, this story takes place across the pond, more specifically in Detroit. Motor City! That's all I know about Detroit. That and crime. I know there's lots of crime in Detroit. Although it would take a long, complicated investigation by the FBI, 11 corrupt police officers and 5 civilians would ultimately get fucked by the long dick of the law. Holy shit. Okay.
Very poetic.
The first hint that something was wrong within the Detroit Police Department, or DPD, came in the late 1980s when 13-year-old Damian Lucas was accidentally killed during a drive-by shooting. At that time, it was believed that the actual target of the shooting had been Uncle Leon Lucas, who owed a substantial amount of money to the notorious Detroit drug dealer Leo Curry. In spite of this clear link, the police instead decided to pursue Lakers Davis, a man with whom Lucas had allegedly argued some weeks previously. This failure... The failure to even inquire as to whether or not Curry or any other members of his organization may have been involved seemed unusual to the FBI, so they decided to do a little investigating. What this investigating revealed was very, very interesting indeed. One particular FBI agent, Herman Groman, was very familiar with the Curry drug dealing gang, having spent quite a bit of time trying to build a case against them during the late 1980s. While listening to wiretapped phones, he heard mention of Damian Lucas and how his death was bringing unwanted heat to the organization. Groman contacted the Detroit Homicide Department and gave them this information, but he was completely ignored. Lachius Davis was charged with the murder of Damian Lucas and held in jail for 9 months before charges were dropped and he was released. Although his murder remains officially unsolved, Groman wasn't prepared to let his suspicions go, and he began looking once again at the phone records of Leo's brother, John Curry. Just after the shooting, John had contacted DPD Sergeant James Jimmy Harris and the then head of Detroit's homicide section, Gil Hill. A 14-year-old FBI informant who was with John Curry at the time of his second call claimed that Curry had brought up concerns that his organization was being targeted as part of the Damian Lucas murder investigation, and Hill had assured Curry that he would take care of it. That's it. That's locked down, isn't it? Our legendary FBI officer gave all of this information to the defense attorney of Lachius Davis, and it was instrumental in securing his freedom. But what about the corrupt officers? I mean, surely I know where this is going to end, but it must be a case of throw the f***ing book at them.
Followed by the bookcase, and then the library, brick by brick.
Believing that, as they had previously been involved with drug dealers, they may well be keen to involve themselves again, the FBI sent in an undercover agent who, with the help of several other high-placed corrupt individuals, including the mayor of Detroit, was able to secure the services of Sergeant Jimmy Harris. Harris agreed to provide a police escort for huge amounts of money that required laundering and later many kilos of cocaine that would be brought in through Detroit Airport. With all this evidence, the FBI was able to successfully arrest 11 corrupt police officers and 5 civilians. Harris received a 30-year prison sentence, but was released in 2008 after being pardoned by President George Bush. What the fuck? He's 30 years in prison for police corruption. He gets a pardon. Sadly, the FBI was never able to gather enough evidence to convict Gil Hill, even though John Curry told investigators that he had paid Hill $10,000 in order to make the Lucas murder investigation go away. It appears that Detroit might still be home to a few untouchables, allegedly. It sounds mega corrupt. Corruption down under.
No, don't do that.
I don't know about you, but as far as I'm concerned, Australia has always appeared to be a pretty cool and relaxed place to be.
For the man who imagines being strangled by a tarantula while a kangaroo breaks his kneecaps and thinks, yes please.
Sadly, I'll never be able to find out whether the image usually portrayed on television is accurate. Wait, why not?
But you'll never know if you never go.
Although many of my family members have visited the country, sometimes for as long as a year at a time, I don't fancy a blind man's chances against the plethora of wildlife that seems to exist purely to keep human numbers down. Yeah, Dave's blind, but like, is it real? Surely there's lots of blind people in Australia who are just fine. Anyway, as great as it might look on television, a little research has shown that it suffers from exactly the same problems as everywhere else on the planet, including police corruption. In 1998, Jason Roberts was convicted of the murder of two police officers, Sergeant Gary Silk and Senior Constable Rodney Miller. Initially, the case seemed pretty straightforward. Among the evidence submitted against the defendant was a statement from a senior constable containing the dying words of Miller, which directly implicated Roberts in the crime. However, in 2022, 3 appeal judges overturned the conviction on the grounds that the main statement used to convict Roberts had, shall we say, a number of flaws. According to the court reports, the Court of Appeal found Senior Constable Glenn Pullen destroyed his original statement about the murders and substituted a backdated statement which included dying declarations of Miller indicating there were 2 offenders rather than 1. The same police officer then perjured himself by lying about the second statement and failed to disclose its evidence, which the court found amounted to gross and fundamental corruption of the trial process. Uh-oh. Although I was unable to find out what happened to the police officer in question,
one-on-one with a kangaroo.
He lost.
It appears that Roberts was immediately released upon his acquittal. While I'm sure he considers this excellent news, having spent 24 years in prison for a crime he did not commit purely because somebody who had sworn to uphold the law decided instead to take a piss in the fountain of truth must surely be a fairly bitter pill to swallow. I hope you got so much fucking money.
$900 dues!
And that the police officer went to prison, because that is outrageous. And that's where today's video ends. Thanks for watching.